and welcome to our first session of Docker Dehradun. And today we are going to start with Docker for beginners. Okay, in this session we are going to learn about Docker, container, images, and all the major things which a beginner should know when he or she is starting with Docker. Today in the session, we are going to learn about how to run Docker container, how to work on Docker images, how to work on Docker networks, what is Docker Compose, and in this session, we are going to learn Docker in depth. Okay, we'll also look after few concern about Docker Swarm, Docker Kubernetes, what is orchestration, and how we can work on it. So I hope that everyone is very enthusiastic to learn Docker today, and Docker is one of the technology which is one of the most demanding technology in the industry now. So I think without wasting any time, let me present my screen and let's start with this particular session. So yes, I think so. Okay, before starting this session, I would like to tell about that you don't need to install anything on your system. No prerequisites is there. We are going to learn from very zero, and we'll share good resources to you so that you can learn this with full of zeal. So Kshitij, you can present your screen if you let me share. Okay, great guys, I want to see your enthusiasm in the chat, guys. Okay, how many of you know about Docker? What is Docker and how we can, what is Docker? Anyone in the chat? Yes, Satish. Okay. How many of you know about anything about Docker? Okay, good evening all. Good evening. We have 24 participants till now. Okay. So let's start with this initiative. Okay. And believe me, guys, we are going to learn so many things, so many new things too. Containerization tool, great. Okay, Docker is container maintainer. Okay, no problem. Okay, great. Is a container based technology. Okay, so let's start with this and understand what is actually what is. Okay, so Kshitij, you can start.
Yeah, okay. So let us start with the Docker thing. So first of all, before starting with the Docker thing, let us understand what is Docker and why is Docker required. Then we will only proceed with the things further about going with Docker, going with coming up with the concepts of Docker, playing with the Docker and running different things. So if any one of you is familiar about what Docker is, so you can introduce. Yeah, some of them has said that it is a containerization tool, it is a containerization based technology. So can you just evaluate what is a containerization tool, what is the containerization technology, what is the difference. We will just also study that, how is containerization different. So what is containerization actually? Do any one of you know about that, what actually is containerization and why do we require containerization? So let us start from the very beginning of our thing. So I have there is a matrix of hell when it comes to Docker. There is a concept of matrix of hell, and Docker helps to resolve the problem of matrix of hell. So let us understand what is the matrix of hell. So considering we have different type of systems and programs. It can be a static website, it can be a web front end, it can be background, some of the background workers, some of the user database, some of the analytics database, and some of the queue. And suppose the static website works on the QA server, and web front end works on the single prod server, background work on the on site cluster, and then user DB again works on this thing, analytics system works on this thing, and queue works on this thing. So we will require a hell lot of different things, and we cannot host all of them, all of the these things over a single machine. So it is very difficult to host everything over a single machine. So it is this cause a great problem, and it causes a problem which is also termed as matrix of hell, because there are various systems. Like for every thing we will need a dedicated system out of it. So rather than just creating a dedicated system, we are what we are doing, we are just creating something what is like, we will have a single system. This is a single system, and on the top of it we will have multiple containers, and each container will run some of the different application. Now, what if we say why these things are not able to run on a single system? Like we are saying that user DB is able to run on dev VM, but the web front end is able to run on single prod server. So considering the example, let us think that there might be some of the static website and web front end. So static website is working with some version of Python, and web front end is working with some different, like suppose it was created in Python 2 and it was created in Python 3, and there might be some of the cases where both of the Python 2 and Python 3 are not compatible with each other. So we need to install at any one of them rather than installing both of them. So it might cause some of the problem. So what Docker does, Docker provides isolated environment where we can run each of our services in an isolated environment, and it just helps to reduce the long setup time. So it just create a short setup time, and after a short setup time we can have like different environments over a single PC, different environment over single device, over a single PC. So these are the three things that the Docker is providing to us. So let us now look at Docker and how it is just providing us with these concepts, and how is it able to solve these things. So let us look at that as well. I hope all of you are comfortable in Hindi. If we can continue further in the session in Hindi, you just can let me know in the comment section so that we can continue further the topic. Continue further. So, like we were talking about Docker. So, what Docker did, it provided us with isolated environment. ठीक है, isolated environment इसने provide किए, and after providing us the isolated environment, इसने हमको like functionality दी कि हम एक individual application चला सकते हैं, individual application plus dependencies. अब जो ये आइसोलेटेड एनवायरनमेंट विच इट इज प्रोवाइडिंग, ये आइसोलेटेड एनवायरनमेंट्स आर इन फॉर्म ऑफ सम ऑफ द कंटेनर्स. तो अब एक और फिर से नई टर्म आ जाती है, लाइक व्हाट इज द कंटेनर, व्हाट इज द कंटेनर है. सो अब कंटेनर क्या होता है, कंटेनर खुद में ही एक आइसोलेटेड एनवायरनमेंट है. कंटेनर हैव सम ऑफ द सीपीयू, कंटेनर हैव सम ऑफ द मेमोरी, कंटेनर हैव सम ऑफ द स्टोरेज. ठीक है. और कंटेनर के अंदर ना लाइक कंटेनर जितनी भी हम बात करते हैं, देयर इज समथिंग अबाउट कंटेनर्स, दैट कंटेनर शेयर द सेम कर्नल. दिस इज सम ऑफ द इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट, शेयर द सेम OS kernel. What is the thing that we are saying that it shares the same OS kernel? So we will just look into it after some time. So this is also some of the thing that the Docker is providing. And when it comes to container are like there are multiple type of containers, and Docker is mainly working on LXC type of container, LXC containers, and containers even existed before the existence of Docker. But what Docker did, Docker just made the thing easier for us to like just Docker did the front end part, and it is a high level application which provides us with the functionality to run containers, and it provides us the functionality to run LXC containers. Okay. So I think like we said that Docker containers share the same OS kernel, and Docker containers are based out of Linux kernel. Okay. So if we are saying that they share the same Linux kernel, then we should not be able to run Docker on macOS or Windows. But we are able to run the containers on macOS and Windows. So how we are able to do that? Actually, the Docker containerization system is only running on the top of the Linux environment only when we install something called as Docker desktop on our Mac environment or on our Windows environment. What it actually does, it just install a layer of Linux kernel on the top of it, and on the top of the Linux kernel, the Docker containers are actually working. So there was a question that what is the main difference between a virtual machine and a Docker container? So this is also something that we need to cover. So let us start with that as well. And till before starting the thing, if any of you have any doubt, you can ask, and I will just take the doubts in the ending of the session, and we will just start with the next topic. So just let me copy an image over here, so it will be easier for all of us to understand. And okay, so this is something that containers and virtual machine. These are some of the things about container and virtual machine. So what is the main difference between a container and a virtual machine? Like infrastructure is common in both of them, so we will just leave the infrastructure part. And infrastructure, on the infrastructure there will be a hypervisor. And what hypervisor does, hypervisor provide us the functionality to run multiple OS. Like there is a guest OS 1 and guest OS 2, guest OS 3. So what it is doing, we are running the OS three times. So it is just improving our system. Like if one CPU is taking like one system load, then three OS are taking one into three, that is three system load. So the system load is increasing if we are running multiple virtual OS on the top of a hypervisor. But when it's come to Docker container, we just install the base operating system only once. So the load is only one time, and then on top of it we will install some of the containerization engine. And in our case we are using Docker as the containerization engine, and Docker will provide us the functionality to run the containers. And uh, we are directly updating the bins and the binary files and the libraries. But now this is a great question. Like here the binaries and the application file, when it come to virtual machine, the binaries and application files are bounded to the guest operating system on under the layer of it. So like this is just binded to it, these are automatically binded. So what is happening, these binaries and library files are being run on the top of the guest operating system. But when it comes to the case of the Docker environment, the binaries and the libraries file are not bounded with any of the operating system. But as I earlier mentioned, the all the containers share the same kernel. So these are bounded with the base operating system, that is the underlying operating system. That is why we also mentioned that the containers share the same kernel. So these binaries and the library file are run on the top of the base operating system, which will be Linux in our case, as Docker only support the Linux kernel, and we can virtualize it with using tools like Docker Desktop and other things. So now, like these are some of the differences. So what actually is the difference? Like these are some of the technical differences. So what is the difference while using virtual machines or containers, and what we will prefer using? So you can just let me know in the chat section that what will you prefer? Will you prefer virtual machine or will you prefer containers? Till then we can just look at some of the advantages and disadvantages of both of them. Like what are the services that virtual machines are providing, what are the services that containers are providing. So we will just look into that. Till then you can let me know, like what do you prefer more, the virtual machines or the containers? Okay, so let us look at some of the things that are being provided by virtual machines or by containers. Like virtual machine have high system utilization. high utilization. Why it is high utilization? Because the operating system is installed multiple times here, so the system utilization is high. And when it comes to the containers, it has low utilization, because the operating system is run only once, and the containers are just based out of it. And when it comes to like virtual machine, high utilization and high disk space is also required. So I'm just like omitting the point, because it will just copy and the high utilization point. So the high storage is also required. When more storage is required, as the operating system is being installed like multiple times. And high boot up time, because whole of the operating system, like it will boot up the GUI and all the services inside the operating system. So this system will take some of the boot time, this operating system will take some of the boot time, and this operating system will then further take some of the boot time. So the boot time will be high. But when it comes to container, the underlying operating system is already started, so only the binaries and libraries are to be loaded on the top of the operating system. So boot time will be low boot time, so low boot time, and it has high boot time. And now coming further, there is also some of the advantages of virtual machine as well. Virtual machine, as they are already complete in itself, it will not require anything from the third party or anything from the outside. The virtual machine is complete in itself, because it has its own guest OS, it has its own binary files, and it has its own application. So it provides high level of isolation. And high level of isolation is like something which we want to achieve, which is not like the high level of abstraction is isolation is not a high level of isolation of resources is not available in the Docker containers, but it is available in the virtual machine. So this is something. So as like we will want to utilize the high isolation of the virtual machine, and the low utilization and low boot time of the containers. So rather than going with the concept of virtual machine versus container, in industry today, we are utilizing, we are utilizing the concept of virtual machine and containers. We are utilizing both of them side by side. So there is not like no conflict in the industry today that we will go with virtual machine or we will go with container, but rather we go with a like some of the thing that is virtual machine and container. Okay, so this is something that was very interesting. And when it comes to Docker, let us like just cover last of the topic, and then the commands, Docker basic commands. So coming to the last topic, there is a concept where like the Docker is providing two type of virtualization environment to us. One is a community edition, and another one is enterprise edition. Community edition is like free to use and is available for everyone to use. It is a set of like free Docker products that are available for every one of us, and the whole purpose of the lab today will be covered in the community edition. While enterprise edition is something that contains some of the certified and supported containerization platform as well. And it also provides some of the add-ons where we can just create some of the private repositories as well. So these are the things that you will understand when you get to the end of the course. You will get to know what is a private image, what is a public image as well. So now let us stop wasting the time, and let us start something where we will be like looking about the basic command of the Docker container, and we will just explain it to you. So we will just start with the Docker container, like the topic, and if you have any queries you can ask it in the comment section. Then and let us start with the commands.
So now we are going to start with Docker commands. We see few of the Docker commands on our environment. What is Docker commands and how we can use Docker? Okay. So in this particular section, Docker commands, we are going to see, Kshitiz talk about container. Okay, he's talking about container. I don't know what is, I know what is container, you know what is container, but how to make them, how to make them, and how we can run a container, how we can stop a container, how we can work with a container, or how we can make different container with different images. This is a
Even
point.
Mansi has a
Okay.
question like, how can we use Docker containers? So we will just look into
Huh.
it in
Exactly. How
the
we can use the
yeah.
Docker, how we are using the Docker container, what is the environment we are going to set up. Just give me a few minutes and I will tell you each and everything about that. Okay. Okay, so for that, Docker give us the great functionality, and Docker community provide a huge support from their side. That is Docker Playground, where you can practice all your concept into that, and it is free of cost. You don't need to pay a single amount. As well as those who don't have high end PCs, or those who don't have a PC that can support Linux and VMs both in their computer, or those who don't want to set up Docker desktop in their system, they can use these Docker background. So let me share my screen and tell you about that. Let me share the link as well, so that you can use this Docker lab, which is known as Docker Playground, where you can use and which you can use for your further practical what I am teaching you here. Okay, before using Docker Playground, you need to have an account on Docker Hub. What is Docker Hub? Yeah, Docker Hub is like a registry. Okay, it's a registry where you can store all your Docker content. Like in previous days, I was working with few of the web server. I was working with Nginx, few Docker components. So I have stored all the things over here only. So you can see this. So to make an account, it's very easy. It's you can make an account with few clicks. Only you need to add your username, your email address, and password. Just with few clicks, you can make an account on Docker Hub. I have shared the link in the chat section. You can copy that link and put it and make an account on Docker Hub. Second thing, then you can use this Docker Lab. While you're using the Docker Lab, what you need to do, only you need to add an instance over here, and you will get a system where you can run all your Docker commands. Okay, all your Docker commands. Docker is pre-installed over here. How to check that Docker is there or not? Let me zoom it a little bit so that my screen is visible to everyone. No?
Yeah, something. Your screen is clearly visible.
Okay, so it's a command. Wait a minute. Okay. We have a command that is Docker hyphen version to check that Docker is there, and if it is there, so what is the version of that particular Docker. So we have a Docker installed in this particular machine, and now we can start working with all the commands of Docker. Okay, I think Shri has told you about the container. What is container? Okay, so container is a particular bucket type thing where we install our OS operating system, or install all the services what we need to use for our project. So how we can start a container? So for starting a container, we have a command that is docker run and the container name. Suppose I think that you all use CentOS as an image on your system. So let's run CentOS over the Docker. Okay, what it is doing now, that CentOS is not on our current system. So what is it is doing? It is pulling the CentOS, and see the speed of this. It is extracting the 75 MB CentOS, and put the VM in front of us. It is what Satish told you about, that is Docker give you the isolated environment. It give you the environment where you can work faster on the big projects, and it help you to run various images. Suppose now we have CentOS. Okay, and now we have also run the CentOS on our system. Okay, see, it give us how to check that CentOS run our system or not. Docker ps-a is a command which tell us about the container that is made by us and stopped by us. Okay, so the image which we have used is CentOS. The port which we are using is this. Okay, then the name of the image is this particular thing. Okay, the container ID of the image is this. Okay, this is super cool, guys. You can do anything with this particular thing. Okay, this also tell you about that when you have used the container, and when it is or isn't in the exited mode, or we are currently using the container. We will see in this session how to be in the container, and how to use different tools with this particular container. So let's see. Okay, now what I want this container should be run on my system, and I can run like my Linux machine. ठीक है, जहाँ पे मैं I can run few commands like date, cal commands. I can make some folder files and all. So how to do that? Docker run -it stands for interactive terminal, guys. Okay, I will share you the link where you can get all these commands with the proper explanation. So for now, you need to focus on the commands which I am delivering. So Docker-it. What Docker-it does? It give us the interactive terminal of the image we want. Suppose I want the terminal for CentOS. Let's see how we can do this. Okay. Yes. Now we are in a container of CentOS. Now we can run any command, Linux command, which we can run on our virtual machine of our system. Like ls is the command of an Linux, pwd, or we can run a date command. Okay, we can make folder. I let give the name Sarthak, so I can make a folder. I can be in that particular folder. So it is as simple as that. Okay. Now with the particular, there is one command exit, so that we can exit with our particular container and back to our machine where we are working on there. Okay, now we are working on our node 1 again. So this is a container which we have run on our interactive terminal part. Okay, you can say. Now what you can say that key here, let's try to run this container. Okay, let's try to check if this container is in running state or not. No container is running till now. Let's check the -a. See, -a command shows us that we have run a container about a minute ago. Okay, and that container exit in 26 seconds. Last 26 seconds it was exited. Okay, now if you are looking into this particular name, this is a name of the container. Okay, this is a random name which is with the Docker is giving to our container. We can name our container according to our wish. How to give the name? Okay, we have a tag that is hyphen name and the name of the container. Suppose I want to name my container as Sarthak. So let's make a container with name Sarthak. Okay. Now see, is there any container Docker? Now I will say Docker, is there any container which is running with my name Sarthak? So Docker say yes, there is a container which is exited in 5 seconds ago, exited it 5 seconds ago, and it's a name Sarthak that you have made. Okay. Now what I want to tell you more about this. Okay, we have a command that is Docker. Okay, run and contain and the image name what we want to use. Okay, now you want to stop this container for next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, of 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and 20 seconds. So you can give them the sleep, and how much second you want to stop this particular container, you can. Okay, so let's see. After the 5 seconds, this container will automatically stop. Okay, how we can do this? Okay, how we can do this? See, Docker stop. Now the container is running. After 5 seconds, it automatically stopped, and see, it automatically stopped and revert to us. Now you said that till the container is running for 5 seconds, we need to present on the terminal. If we want to do some work on terminal, how we can do that? So Docker provides us the functionality that is attach mode and detach mode. Two functionality that Docker is providing us. One is detach mode functionality and one is attach mode functionality. How we are going to use that? Let's see. Let's see the functionality. How we can use the functionality of attach and detach. Okay, while running the container, if we use a tag -d, then a container is running, but at the background. Let's see, we give a time of 30 seconds. Okay, it is running, it gives it container ID, and let's see with the docker ps command if the container is running or not. Yes, it is running. It is running, guys, and the command we have given is sleep 30. Okay, now we can see docker ps. Now also it is running. Okay, 50 seconds gone and the container is running till the 30 second it run, and after the 30 second it automatically stopped working. Okay, now 27 seconds ago it was running. Now 3 more seconds and we can see that no container is running on our system. See, no container is running on the system because 30 seconds are over. Now let's see with docker ps-a that any container is exist in last 13 or 15 seconds. Yes, this is a container which have the command of sleep 30, which is a CentOS container. Okay, now someone from the audience was asking if we are using docker run command, it will fetch the image for us. It will, we can use a docker image and we can directly run a container with them. But if we don't want to run a container with docker image, how we can pull an image? So docker pull is a command where which help you to pull a image from the docker hub. So docker pull is a command. It's a simple command which you can use to pull an image. So how you can see which all the how you can see all the images which is presenting in your docker environment. Let's see, docker image is the uh, docker images is the command. With the help of that we can see the size of the image. Okay, when it was created, the image id, the tag which we have used, and the image name. Okay, one thing more guys, if you are using any image, if you are pulling any image, and if you are not giving that image a tag, what the meaning of the tag is? Suppose you are pulling an image of redis, and redis is also having a version of 4.0. Okay, if you are pulling that image, if you are not giving this 4.0, it will automatically fetch an image which is having the latest tag. Okay, but if you give the tag that is 4.0, it will fetch an image which is having the tag or a version of 4.0. See, we have successfully downloaded. See now how we can see that docker images. See, it downloaded with a tag of 4.0. Okay, going to do is we again run a container with a detach mode of CentOS, है ना, for 100 second. Okay, for 100 second. Okay, for 100 second we are running this container. Now you can see that this particular container is running. Now if I want to stop this container, how can I stop this container? Okay, this container name is this stocket something. The container name is, what we are going to do is we are going to copy this container name. Sorry, we are going to type a command docker stop, sorry, container name stop. Wait a minute, let me copy the name. Docker stop. Let me write the name. It is not giving me the permission of copy this particular socket. Z A H M I. Okay, now see, with the help of stop command we can stop this particular container which is running on our docker, which is running on our system. Okay, let's see, after giving that particular name again, it will stop our docker container which is running at the background. See, now we can see this, no container is running, means it is stopped by our system. Okay, okay, any doubt till now if you have? Any doubt till now guys, so that I can clear the doubt here only? No, what it means to pull an image and to start an image? Let's see this. Exactly. Okay, I will explain this again. Let's see this, what images and how to, what is it mean completely. Okay, let's create let's consider a scenario. You buy a new laptop, or a new device which doesn't have anything in it. Okay, you doesn't store any OS in it, operating system in this particular OS. Okay, if you know about the operating system, so we need an ISO device or a pen drive or a CD which contain this ISO device, where the where our OS is there. Okay, let us suppose if we want to install window on our system, so we need a pen drive which is having the ISO image of that particular Windows 10, Windows 11, or Windows 7, what we want to install. If we want to store Linux, then also we need to have an ISO file. Okay, this ISO file, what is this? In Docker we say this as Docker image. Okay, okay, similarly, in this particular manner, we use CD, pen drive, okay, or hard disks or external hard disks to install our OS, to boot our OS. Okay, but in the case of Docker images, we are using Docker Hub. Okay, Docker Hub to fetch these images from there. Okay, let me show you how Docker is looking and what you can do with Docker Hub. Okay, now organizations. Now you can come. Okay, explore. Coming to the Docker Hub, you see, you can see that there is an Oracle Java S3, there is a container for that, there is a container for Oracle, there is a container for Couchbase, there is a container for Alpine, there is a container for Python, where you get each and everything about Python. Every, in this particular container, you will get the maximum plugins of Python, maximum libraries of Python pre-installed. Ubuntu we have used, Redis we have used now, Postgre. For Postgre you have a container. For Node you have a container. You have a container from almost all the brands. For HTTP, for HTTP server you have an official container. This is a container. This is an images. Sorry, this is an images you got from Docker Hub. You can pull any images. Okay, how you can pull any images? Just click on that particular image and use this particular command, Docker pull Alpine. Okay, just what we are using earlier. So what we can see, Docker pull Alpine, and we can pull any image in on our container. See, done. It means what, an image is pulled on our system and we can use that image now. Okay, how, see how fast it is. Okay, Docker pull Alpine. Now we are using the Docker Alpine terminal. See how fast it is. Alpine terminal. Alpine is a category of Linux which is provided. Okay. So this is the meaning of Docker pull an image and to install an image. मतलब जैसे we are using our own system, own operating system. Similarly, we are using मतलब installing. Can we host? Yes, we can host a website using Docker, but not using Docker. We have various functionality with the Docker. We can we can manage our website with the Docker container. Not hosting, we can manage our website with the help of Docker container. In the Docker container, we can put all of the content of the website. Suppose let's see this particular scenario. A good question from your side. Okay, a good question I got. Okay, uh, let's talk about a website. Suppose a website contain, what a website contain, guys. Front end part. Okay, when we're talking about a backend part, okay, in backend we have several database running. Okay, somewhat DevOps tools are running on the backend. Okay, some plugins are running on the backend. Okay, these front end part, database tools, plugins, all these things have different dependencies. Okay, suppose I configure all these for an OS of Ubuntu. Okay, okay, I configure according to the need of Ubuntu. Suppose for database I use MongoDB. Okay, and for Ubuntu I use MongoDB version 1. Okay, for these plugins I use version 2. Okay, I configure all these things according to the need of Ubuntu, and I make an image out of it. And now this image we can use anywhere where we want. We can use on our Windows machine, we can use On our Linux machine, on Linux we can use on RHEL, we can use on Ubuntu, Debian, where we want. It's totally depend on us. Okay? Let's jump on directly on Docker, run. Now, before starting Docker run, I would like to tell you that uh, if you want to delete any container, how you can delete. What you need to do, just you need to copy the container ID. Suppose I want to delete this particular container. Okay, how you can delete a particular container? You need to type a command docker rm and the container ID. Suppose the container ID is 1da, only the 5 or 6 starting alphabet of that particular ID, then the container will be deleted. You can see from here. See, the container is deleted from here. Okay, now what we can do more on this docker, you can also delete an image. Okay, so let's see image over this container. Okay, wait. Okay, let's see how many images are there in this container. We have 4 images. Let's delete Redis image from our container. How we can delete? Docker RMI or Redis. Mhm. Let me clear this. Docker RMI. Let's try to delete Ubuntu. Okay, now it is deleted from our. We have deleted the Ubuntu image. Now let's see Ubuntu is there or not in our system. On see, Ubuntu is not there. We have completely deleted the Ubuntu image. This is how you can use few commands. I will share all these commands with a proper, explanation. Okay. Now, if you are using a particular command, if you are using Docker, if you are using container, how you can execute a container with a particular, you know, uh, with a particular command. If you want to run a date, if you want to run date with the help of uh, from Alpine container, how you can do that? You need to write the container name. Okay, suppose uh, Docker run Alpine, the image name and the command you want to run. Suppose I want to run date command. Okay, it will run a date command and the container will uh, shut down automatically or exit automatically. Okay, so hmm, okay, now let us go deep dive to run command. In run command I have tell you about that if we run a container with a tag, how to run a container with a tag. Okay, you can also give a particular port to your run command. Okay, on that particular port only your command will work. Okay, suppose you are running a web server, you can give a particular port to your web server and run your particular system. Okay, suppose I want to run nginx over it. Nginx over it. So see, okay, now we have complete the pull and we are using the nginx on our port. Okay, so this is the few commands which we can use to run to execute our things. Okay, now what we are going to learn now, we are going to build our own image like Docker does. Okay, we will push our own image on Docker Hub, and we all can use any one of our image whenever we want. Okay, like I have make an image that is that is for a web server. Anyone from here can use this particular image, and what is in that particular image is there is one web server which is running in this particular image. So let's see how you can pull this image and how you can use this images. Let me copy. Let me copy this. Okay. So Docker run, same command, Docker run, and the image name you want to run. Okay. Now you can run this following image. V1. Okay. See, it is fetching the image from my repository. Sarthakzen07 is my Docker username, and there is an image known as web server. It is fetching from there, it is extracting from there, and now I can use this particular image, okay, in my terms. So let's make our own image, and I will answer all your doubts over it. Okay, let's see. Okay, any doubts, guys, till now? Any doubts here? Okay, so let's build our own. How many instances we can run simultaneously? You can run 5 to 7 instances simultaneously. 5 to 7 instances you can run easily. Okay, on this Docker hub. To create and run container, can we do only use Docker? No, 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 not for creating. You can create your own image. We are going to create now. Kshitish will tell you how to create your own image. How you can write a code to create your own image. Okay. And Docker only provides to create container image dependency packages together and run container. Uh, Create container image. No. Docker provides us n number of functionality which we are going to learn in this. Okay, these are the these are the most used functionalities what we are using today. If we are pulling the Python VM, if we are pulling the Python VM, so we can use each and every libraries. We don't need to install uh, libraries like if we want to use NumPy, if we want to use um, any of the libraries, pandas, sklearn, we can use over it. Okay, it is having more than enough libraries to use. Okay, then sleep. What is sleep? If we apply a sleep, and after the sleep tag, after the sleep number, we can, if we want to apply, if we apply a particular number, so the container will stop after that. Suppose we have applied a sleep container for 10 minutes or for 10 seconds, sleep 10, so it will automatically run that. Is Reddit OS, we can install and service and then use them in a Docker in Reddit as well, install the services and then use them. How it is see, if you are using a Docker container, if you are using a Docker container, so what you get, you can install any services, in a minute. Okay, you can also install Fedora or Reddit rel OS in with in few minutes. But if you're talking about VM, or if you're talking about a Reddit, you need to boot that particular device, then install all the required softwares, all the required drivers for that, and I think that will take almost 30 to 40 minutes, to install and launch. So it will take time. Plus suppose isolation is not there. Okay, Docker provide the isolated container. Suppose I want to use Reddit now, and then I want to use Ubuntu, then I want to use you know um, Alpine, I can use according to my convenience. Other question? Any other doubt? नहीं? नहीं? चलिए, thank you. अच्छा ठीक है. So let's Shriti will tell us how we can make our own image. Okay, let's begin on this.
Yeah, let us now proceed further about creating our own image rather than like just using the images from the Docker Hub or just using some of the other images. So we will just start with creating some of our own Docker images and we will just work along with that. So how to decide which to use, Ubuntu, Alpine, Fedora? You can use any of the container as per your requirement. That will depend on what type of application you are developing. If you want to develop a database application, so you will automatically use some of the database container. You will not use a web server for that. So that depends on the usage that we are provisioning. with us. Also, now continuing further with the Docker image thing. And so as all of you must be already familiar with the Docker the images. There are various Docker images that are available on our system. So we can just have a look at that by typing the Docker images command, and we see like there are no images as of now. So as Sarthak already told you, like we can pull Docker image, we can pull some like Docker pull CentOS. Like let us pull two different Docker images. I have pulled CentOS and then Ubuntu. So these are the images that are already pre-created by some of the developer, and they are already being present on the Docker Hub. But what if a Docker image that is already present on the Docker Hub does not satisfy our functionality? If we want to like print something on the screen as soon as we run some of the Docker image, or we want some of the custom operations, so the custom operations are like not available on the Docker Hub. If we want to host our own website, so our website will not be available on the Docker Hub. So we need to create our own Docker images for that. And for creating Docker images, we use some of the concept of Dockerfile. So before starting with the commands and proceeding further with the Dockerfile, let us look what is a Docker image and how to create it. What is a Dockerfile? What is the syntax to write in Dockerfile? And all of these. So coming talking about the Docker images. So, what is Docker image? So, like Docker image, it is a why. First of all, why do we need Docker image? What is the sole purpose? Why we are using some of the Docker images? Why we are not using some of the operating system that are already existing in the market? So, like, what is Docker image? Docker image, as I already told you, Docker all uses the base OS. Like, it is share the same kernel. So we need not to create some of the complete of the Docker of the images that are present in the ISO files. So we just need some of the binary applications and some of the libraries. So we just curate them and we just form a Docker image. And these Docker images are some of the Docker images like Ubuntu that was fetched by us or sent to us, as these are some of the OS specific images. Like Fedora is also one of them. So these are something that we can just use. But when it comes to like Dockerfile, we are just creating some of our own image. So like I am hosting some of the application, so that application also need to be hosted on top of the some of the operating system. So like while creating my own Docker images, so we will just need some of the Docker file. So Docker file, what is a Docker file now? So Docker file, it is nothing, it is just a text file. Docker file is a text file written in such a way that Docker understands it, and it just curates some of the steps that are placed in it, and it just create a new image out of it. So while providing something to a Docker file, it follows a specific syntax. While like there is instruction, and instruction is followed by some of the argument. So this is something of the syntax of a Docker file argument. And like, so let us talk about some of the basic Docker syntax, and then let us look further with it. So what I am doing, I am just like proceeding with the Docker lab, and I will just create a basic Docker file, and then I will explain something to you. First let me just create a file test. So I have created an empty file, and what I am going to do, I will just create a Docker file. Dockerfile has the same naming convention, Dockerfile, Dockerfile. So I'm just creating a empty Dockerfile. So what I'm first of all, I am writing from, and I am making it Ubuntu. And then what I am doing, I am running apt update -y, and I am running upgrade command as well. also leave it like we will modify it for some later point. And what I am doing, I am copying some of the file. Copy dot slash s2 slash tmp s s, and just I am saving the file. And when I view the file, like, so this is the content of my Docker file. So what is the syntax that I was using? There is syntax like from Ubuntu run and copy. These are some of the commands that are present here, but we are like not familiar with these things. So what are actually these commands? Let us like have a look about that. What are these commands? What is it doing? We are completely unaware about that thing. So from Ubuntu and run apt date -y and also copy dot slash test to slash tmp slash test. So these are some of the three commands that we were working with. So let us like take each of the command and study it in depth. So like the from, this is a from keyword, and as we already mentioned, it is in the form, the Docker file is in the form of instruction and space. This is space here, there is space here, and there is a space here, and then argument. So here from is an instruction, like what from specifies, it specifies the base operating system. Like I am utilizing the base Ubuntu operating system, and I am modifying something in the Ubuntu operating system as per my need. And further, like what run does, run just run the command inside the Docker container. Like as soon as I create an Ubuntu, it will just update it. And what copy command does, copy command just copies some of the source file from this is the file that is present in my local machine, and it will copy this file from my local machine to this location on my container. So copy will just copy this something, and like, so Docker will just create a layer out of it. So how to build a Docker file, and like just I have written the Docker file, but no image has been formed out of the Docker file. So how to create a image out of the Docker file? So we will just also look into that thing as well, like how to build a image out of Docker file. So for building a Docker file, we will just use the command docker build, and let me just write it down. Uh, so what we will do, we will just write docker build -t. -t will specify the image name and the tag name. For example, I am specifying Docker Dehradun, and tag is like, if I do not specify any tag, the tag will automatically be latest, but we can also specify any tag according to our need. So I can specify like w1 as a w1 as a tag, and I will just specify dot because my current directory contains my Docker file. So what it will do, it will just create some of the layers. So all of these are like the layers, like this is step 1 out of 3, so it is creating a layer 1. Step 2 out of 3, it is creating a layer 2, and then after completion of this step, it will be a step 3 out of 3 that will create layer 3. So like we will also study in depth what is a layer when it comes to Docker images. So let us have a look about that thing as well. Like when we run these commands, so Docker just process everything as if it was a different layer. So what is the advantage of using layers in like Docker? Why we are using the concept of layers over here, and how it is benefiting us? So like as every line in the Docker file creates some of the different layers. So it will create layer 1, it will create layer 2, and it will create layer 3. So there will be three different layers of the in the Docker file. So what each layer does, each layer is just a set is just an instruction. It is just an instruction, and each layer is dependent on the previous layer. So suppose if I have created some of the Docker file and now I want to modify, like before running this I need to run apt upgrade as well, like apt upgrade command as well, I want to run it here. So what I have done, like I have not modified these commands. So these commands should not run again and again, because these are automatically like they are already being run once. So I need not to run it again and again. So what Docker does, it just create a cache. It just create a cache of these two layers. And if we modify something in the Docker file, all the things that are proceeding it, like this command and the command proceeding it, these will be run only again. Like these will be run again, and these will be fetched from the cache memory. Like just let us see it as well while executing. So let me just modify the Docker file, and I'm just adding something like run apt upgrade -y over here. So let us now, while building the Docker image, so it is just sending some of the context to the Docker daemon, and see, it is just using cache. It is just using cache. It is not running it again. So it has specified that it is using cache rather than just running everything over and over again. It is just using the cache in step 2, and then in step 3 it is running the whole thing, and in step 4 it will just also modify. So it is not specifying using cache here. And if I modify something after like these second and third line, so again it will use the cache of third line, and we need not to perform the upgrade like again. So if I want to run echo hello, so it will just print the hello, and it will not like it will use cache for all the, like it is using the cache and it is using the cache. So it is not like just rebuilding everything again and again. So it is something that is that is happening once. So this is something that is concerned with the creation of Docker images, and we can create our own Docker images. And while running Docker, there is Docker containers. There is a concept, like if we want to see if some of the container is running, and if we want to debug the container. So like let us see if Docker, there is a Docker container running. There is no Docker container running. So let us start like a Docker container dock, docker run -d Ubuntu, and we'll just make it sleep for 1000 seconds. So when we like see the Docker PS, so the process is running and it is up. The status is up for the Docker container. And if we want to debug the Docker container, there is a command like docker inspect, and I can either specify some of the container ID or the name of the container. So in this case, I will be using the name of the container, docker inspect, and I will just inspect it. So what inspect command will do, it will just tell me everything about the Docker container, everything like it is its system utilization, it is its argument, and it's like the command, when it was created, what is its state, is it running, is it paused, is it restarting. So everything about a container, its IP, its isolation, everything is like it is some of the environment variables that are present in the container. So everything is present when we can inspect a container like this as well. So this is something or like, and it is not a like 2 hour session. We will end the session in next 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So let us look at something like how to provide some of the environment variables to the Docker. Like suppose we want to create some of the container and we want to provide some of the environment variables along with it. So like I am just running a new Ubuntu container, and I want to provide some of the environment variables along with it. So like I can just use the -e option, And by specifying minus e option, I can specify a variable like this is a test variable, and I am specifying it the value of 100. So environment variable will be created as well, and I can also like inspect it like docker ps, and the eager color container is newly created, so I will just inspect the docker container like docker inspect eager color, and there is a section which gives us the environment variable, and a new environment variable just appeared that the test is 100, and the path was already specified. So this is something, so we can just create it on our own. And further, like what we can also do here, we can also upload some of the already like images created by us on the docker hub, which we will get to know in the tomorrow session. So just be with us, and let us continue with the last topic for today, like what is actually like these things, how why we are creating docker containers. So like docker container, after creating some of the docker containers, like we have created a docker container, and like these docker container is running, but now we do not have access to the docker container. So what we can do, if we want to run something like the sleep command is running, I know that the sleep command is being run in the background, but what if I want to run something else on the docker container as well? So what I will do, I will just run the docker exec command on which container I want to execute. I want to execute on eager killer, and what I want to execute, like I will just want to see the date command and its output. So I can just like execute some of the commands simultaneously by using docker exec command as well. So that thing that using that the docker exec command, we will be able to just create run some of the like commands on an existing running containers. And if we want to like this was a detached container and we want to attach this container, so what we can do, we can like just docker attach and container name like eager killer, and then the container will be attached, and we will just see everything that is being happening in the container. And suppose we want to see some of the logs about the container, so what we will do, we can just type docker logs, and we can just see logs of a container like let us see docker ps. There is no like there is run a container docker run -d ubuntu, and I'm just pinging 8.8.8.8. So it is just like pinging some of the IP address out of it, and it is running in okay. There's no ping. Let us see if some other image has the command like Alpine. Alpine has this command. So if I want to see the logs of the Docker container, so I will just see the Docker PS which is being running, and I will just run Docker log. And after running the Docker log, I will just provide like the container boring, and it will just print the logs of the container that are being published in the container. So that's all for today's session. We will just meet tomorrow on the same YouTube channel, and we will continue further about the thing.
Sorry, if anyone have any doubt, they can ask now. Okay. There's one doubt. Can't we upload our Docker image on Docker Hub? Yes, we can. We can upload our. Tomorrow we'll see that how we will upload our own image to Docker Hub. Okay, and we can also pull. Anyone can pull that particular image. It's a public image. What we upload. Okay. We have created the image, and now at last we got to know that images we have created have some issues. So what now? You can change the docker file according to you and again build that particular image. Okay. uh, if you make a new image for that thing, now you can
Yeah, we
update
can
that
also
docker
create
file.
a we can create the image, or we can create a new image as per our requirement. We can do it accordingly.
It's up to us what we want to do. Okay. Then some of the questions that is coming. Salim was right. some apparently frustrated SQL developer create Dockerfile for me. It, it might be okay. Then I'm already have Docker desktop on my laptop. Beginner, but as a beginner, I don't know how to work on it. Okay, you don't know. There's ample amount of videos over the internet. Second thing, I would like to share one thing, which is very great for all of you. Contribute. Let me share. Give me a minute. Okay. This is something where you can contribute what you know about Docker. Okay. Second thing, in this particular website, we have a section for handbook. Okay. On the section of let me share my screen and tell you what I am saying. See, on this particular website, we have a section for handbook. This is a section for handbook. Okay, where we have the handbook for Docker for beginners, intermediate users, for beginners, Kubernetes, Java developers, .NET developers, Go developers. Okay, and our team, Docker team, is currently uploading the content as much possible. You can also contribute on this particular page if you know anything about that. Okay, so today we have started about Docker images, accessing and managing Docker images, getting started with Dockerfile. Okay, so you can revise these concepts from here also. Okay, your concept from here also. Second thing, we are going to learn Dockerfile, Docker volume, Docker network tomorrow as well. We'll also push our images on our Docker Hub repository. So stay with us till tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow will be the day two of this bootcamp, and after this, might be you can be aware with the Docker part. Okay. Any other question, guys? No. If we have created the image, then we have to create it every time in Docker Hub. It's depend on you. You want to push that image on Docker Hub or not. Docker Hub is like a GitHub repository. It's your wish. You want to push that image on Docker Hub or not. Okay. Nahin? Okay.
Okay,
Any
Sarthak.
other
So I
question?
think we can wind up with the
Okay.
session today, and we can just start tomorrow after.
Okay. That's all for today's session, and thank you everyone for having. We are very grateful to have you all. And tomorrow we'll meet at same time 6 p.m. and contribute to Docker community as well. Or you can also refer the Docker community resources. Links are in the description as well. Thank you everyone.